With the new Spider-Man movie coming out now, I'm sure most of us are feeling a resurgence of wanting to be Spider-Man or feeling like Spider-Man is literally me. It's something almost everyone has experienced at some point or another, and if it's not with Spider-Man, then it's with some other character that you adore or you deem worthy of striving to become. I'm making this video to tell you all that you really can be Spider-Man. To explain what I mean by that and not to sound like a deranged man-child, I want to talk about what it actually means to be him. And to do that, there's a little bit of deep diving involved, so stick with me. Spider-Man is a work of fiction, obviously, but what exactly is fiction used for? To be honest, it can be whatever the author wants it to be, but the stories that stick, the ones that leave a lasting impact on the audience, like a story that would make you want to be the main character, they always have an important lesson or themes that the average viewer can relate to. And it's not just Spider-Man. Stuff like The Odyssey, where the story is like obviously fictional and couldn't happen in real life, but the struggles that the character goes through, like they're usually internally or mentally, but the struggles, the viewer can relate to them, even though it's from a fictional story. Those stories stick with us because we relate to them. And I think Spider-Man does this really well, in my opinion, with the main overarching theme being responsibility. I know it might sound cliche and probably obvious, but I don't think everyone really thinks about it deeply enough to truly grasp the severity of it. We've all heard, with great power comes great responsibility. It's in every movie. Everyone who's watched Spider-Man knows the quote, and even people who haven't watched the movies know it too. That's because it sticks, because it actually means something, not just for Peter Parker, but for everyone watching too. Now, in Spider-Man, we know what the statement means for Peter. It's more literal than it would be for most of us. He has power, and therefore he bears the responsibility of using it for what's right. But morally, is there actually an obligation for him to use his powers to help people? Instinctively, we want to say yes, because if you can help someone, then you should. It's the right thing to do, and it's good. But would that also imply that not helping someone is automatically bad? Why would it be though? You didn't cause whatever problem they're experiencing, so morally, do you actually have an obligation to help them? When you start thinking about it a little more deeply, is there really a yes or no answer to what is right or wrong when it comes to using what you have for others? There are arguments for both sides, but it can't be definitively stated that you have to help someone if you can. And I think this is where responsibility comes in. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He has the powers to help others. That doesn't mean he has to. However, due to his own moral compass and the usual progression we see through the movies, he believes he has the responsibility to. This is important. There are lots of people in the world with power, some more literal than others, but that wouldn't make them akin to a superhero, and definitely not Spider-Man, because most people don't think about the power they hold as a responsibility to help others. When we hear this, my first instinct, at least, is to start thinking about world leaders or politicians, people like that. And it's true, if more people in political power were thinking about the responsibility they have to citizens, I'm sure the world would be a better place. But I'm obviously not making this video for politicians, so I'm not going to preach to them. This video is for you, so I want to talk about the responsibility that you, me, and everyone else have to our fellow man or woman. If you feel like this can't be applied to you because you don't have power or influence or whatnot, just forget about that. We all have something we can offer that can make someone else's life better or at least easier. Some way that we could help others. I know for me, my friends tell me that I'm good to talk to when they're going through a tough time or just feeling low in general. And now that I'm saying it out loud, it sounds small. But even if it does, if I know I can help someone in whatever way possible, even if it is small, I consider it my responsibility to do so. When you stop thinking about things as what you can do and instead think about them as what you have to do, you make the shift from ability to responsibility. That's what Spider-Man is. His life, his movies, his stories are so great and expansive because they're a reflection of the power he has and the responsibility he's taken upon himself with it. And it's not always pleasant. I remember thinking to myself at some point, like, damn, do I really gotta be everyone's therapist? Because I really was just getting tired of it. It was exhausting at some point. And there's nothing wrong with getting tired or thinking that way. I mean, just because it's right to help others doesn't mean it'll always be easy. And don't mistake this for me telling you to sacrifice all your time and energy for other people, because that's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm saying where you can, you should help. I had some acquaintances, I'm not going to call them friends, a couple semesters ago at university who would constantly ask me for help with their math. I would always help them. I never complained, even though sometimes I was annoyed, and I don't know if it showed on my face. But I was always trying to be patient with them. But it got to a point where I realized that I would help them with their work. I wouldn't be able to work on my stuff, and then they would finish before me and just distract the hell out of me. then I'd have to go home and dedicate more time to finishing work that I would have already been done with if I hadn't spent time helping them. After realizing that, I just decided helping them wasn't worth my time and energy. Anyway, that was besides the point. All of that was just to say, if you feel like the help you're providing for someone is taking too much out of you, or it isn't being reciprocated, or that they're just taking advantage of you in general, it's better to stop helping and don't feel guilty about it. And this doesn't mean you shouldn't help people when it gets tough. Like I said earlier, I was the guy my friends talked to about serious issues going on for them, and while it could get a little exhausting, I didn't bail on them. You gotta be able to tell the difference between people in situations worth helping and people who are just insincere and want to take advantage of you. If we only helped people when it was easy, there'd be no struggle, no learning, no development. And those are all things that happen to every single Spider-Man. They're a key part of his story. And remember, helping others looks incredibly different for everyone. Maybe some of you know a skill or a trade that could benefit somebody else. I've seen people at the gym, and this has happened to me, where an experienced guy will go out of his way unprompted to show someone else how to do an exercise properly. It's stuff like that, where there was no obligation to help. It wouldn't have technically been wrong not to help, but the dude saw it as his responsibility to help. And that brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, courage. And I hope I'm not sounding like a grade school English teacher, like,
you must be responsible and courageous.
I'm not trying to be corny like that, but these are important. And I think they're important traits that come with wanting to be like Spider-Man. Along with accepting the responsibility to help people, you need to have the courage to actually act on it. I can't speak for everyone, but for me and most of the people I know, we're not exactly the most outgoing people around. So when I saw the dude in the gym helping a random person out, I thought to myself, would I have been able to do that? I'm a pretty shy person when it comes to people I don't know. So let's say even if I knew the exercise that the guy was struggling with, even if I had done it every week for multiple years, would I have had the courage to go up to someone and just start helping them without being asked? I realized it's important to have the courage to work through fear and actually be able to act on the responsibility you accept. What good is an unfulfilled responsibility? Sure, I can help my friends when they're going through a tough time, but if I saw a stranger crying on their own, would I have the courage to go up and talk to them? To try and help them? If you don't have the courage to act on it, then what's the point of accepting a responsibility? When we see Spider-Man fighting or swinging or doing anything intense, he isn't spending all of his time thinking about what to do. He's acting quickly, acting on instinct. I think in order to have the courage to act, even in moments of fear, it might be better to act first before thinking. In real life, most of us think too much about something before doing it, and we end up shooting ourselves in the foot and giving up. Like, we fail before we even try. I've seen some of the most tech-savvy people go quiet and motionless when a professor is having trouble getting his computer and projector working properly, and he's trying to get a random student to help. Why is that? These guys could solve the problem in less than a minute, but none of them will volunteer to help. It's because nowadays, we let ourselves get into our heads too much, and we think about what would happen if we fail before we even try. We have a natural fear of failure, and it's easy to give into that fear and give up on trying before you even start. That's why courage is important. That's why it's important to be able to act before thinking. I'm sure most of us have heard the quote, "It's better to try and fail than to not have tried at all." It's true. And I think it goes hand in hand with having courage. Having courage doesn't mean you don't have fear or anxiety or nervousness. It means that despite those feelings, you're able to move forward, prepared to fail, but aiming to succeed. If you want to be Spider-Man, like the superhero you've looked up to forever, you need to find out what your responsibility is, and you need to gain the courage to act on it. Anyway, thanks for listening to me, guys. That's all I gotta say. I hope it wasn't too cringe or corny. Leave a comment and let's have a discussion. Peace.